Big East Women's Basketball is brought to you by Invesco QQQ, official ETF of the Big East Conference.
Inside Hinkle Fieldhouse on a lovely Wednesday evening. We welcome you to Big East Women's Basketball on a busy night across the conference as the Butler Bulldogs, looking for their third win in Big East play, try to stop the undefeated Blue Jays of Creighton. A big matchup between both of these teams nearing the midway point of this Big East season. It's a pick out inside Hinkle tonight. Special night for all those involved, and we appreciate you joining us here on the Big East Digital Network. Alongside AB Stocks, I'm Will Haskett. So glad you could be with us. And what is a really interesting back and forth between two teams, AB, that saw each other earlier this season. Creighton dominating the first half. Butler comes all the way back in the second half. Now you have a Butler team trying to rebound off a very disappointing loss this past weekend against a Creighton team looking to make a little bit of program history tonight on the road.
That's right. Creighton is now 7-0 in Big East play. That has tied the best Big East start in Creighton history. This team is looking to make their mark and set that record solid. On the flip side, Butler, coming off of a 2-game winning streak that was snapped, they're looking to bounce back and dominate at home. Butler is currently 8-2 in Hinkle.
There's some marquee players in this game tonight, but I think the ones that you're most excited about are maybe the X factor, the different type of player that could have an impact. First for Creighton, Molly Mogensen's coming off one of her best games of her career, 21 the other night against DePaul.
That's right, 21 against DePaul, and then versus Seton Hall, Mogensen flirted with a triple-double with 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. She currently leads Creighton in assists, and during Big East play, the fifth year has stepped up her scoring, averaging now 10.6 points per game during Big East play.
This team can really shoot it, but on the other side for Butler, they may have a bit of an advantage with their size in the post. And with the injuries that have sort of derailed this Butler season, back into the starting lineup goes the senior Sydney Janes. You're looking for her to step up here tonight.
That's right, Sydney Janes, she is consistency for this Butler squad. Versus Xavier, she led Butler in scoring with 9 points per game. But since she has been inserted into the Butler starting lineup, she's averaging 10 points per game and showcasing a little bit of her three-point shooting, averaging 45% from three.
These two teams met back on January the 1st. It was a New Year's Day showdown on the road in Omaha for the home team here tonight. Butler to see Austin Parkinson getting his team ready. A 68-64 Creighton win in which they led by double digits in the first half. They led by 12 at the break. But even though Butler turned it over in that game, they found a way defensively to disrupt this high-flying, high-scoring Creighton lineup, holding the Blue Jays under 70 points. What is this Butler team, now that they've gotten used to life after Caroline Strandy, trying to figure out with this young lineup what to do? What can they do tonight to upset one of the two remaining unbeatens in the Big East?
Great question. Well, first of all, Butler does their defense. In that first matchup against Creighton, there was not one quarter in which Creighton, which is a high-octane offense, was able to score over 20 points in a quarter. The other thing that Butler has in his favor is rebounding. Butler knows how to crash and dominate the boards. We talked about Sydney Janes. Kristen Carter coming off the bench will look to crash, dominate inside, and of course, leading the Big East in double-doubles, Kyla McGuff will handle scoring and rebounding.
Lockett handling the ball out top as Creighton gets the first possession. You've got two 17-a-game scorers. Jensen, who just gave it up to Mogensen, and there's the star in Morgan Molly. She goes to work in the post, and the turnaround missing falls into the hands of Janes, making her 7th consecutive start for Butler.
Will, we see another glimpse of what Butler needs to do to stay in the mix of this game, and that is push the pace. Carson Norman for Butler, number 1 point guard, ball now in her hands. Look for her to really push the tempo.
Carmody missing the three. That's going to be the key to watch for Butler, is can they finally get the outside shot to fall. It's a good shooting team that has not shot it well this year, starting to perplex the coaching staff as Butler empty on its first trip a few days after going 3 of 21 from three in that loss at Xavier. Quick trigger, there's Mogensen picking right up where she left off the last game, had 21 a season high against DePaul, and has the first triple for this high-flying, incredibly high-shooting team for Creighton. Number 1 in the Big East from behind the arc and 12th in the entire country. Kylan McGuff feeds the post to Janes, who flipped it away. Carmody comes up with the carom. McGuff struggled at Xavier. She is the go-to player now for Butler in the absence of their leading scorer, Strandy. Janes, she's got an advantage size and strength in the post, but misses the turnaround as Butler still looks for its first points.
Sydney Janes has nice footwork and can really move well around the basket. Look for Butler to continue to go inside.
Mogensen trying to shake Norman on defense. Creighton knows that good shots are going to be hard to come by in this game. They said a key to tonight was just waiting for the right shot, not forcing something early. That's from deep for Molly, and she is unconscious from three. She is now 14 of her last 20 from beyond the arc, dating back 3 games, averaging 17.6 a game. She's 4th in the country. She's a 49% three-point shooter.
That's a special touch from the 3, and you look at her high release, and you see why it's tough to guard.
They'll feed Janes against Molly on the other end, just kind of trying to maybe take it out of her defensively. Good stepping under. And there's your key player tonight. Sydney Janes is going to have her way in the post. This is not a team that can throw a lot of bigs at Butler down in the blocks.
And we talk about Sydney Janes, her footwork around the basket. Look at her to use her continued pivots, but defensively as well. Sydney Janes has good footwork, and she'll switch screens and pressure some of Creighton's three-point shooters.
Mogensen with a mismatch against Janes, shook her off, and just a little bit short on the 3. Carmody wants to push, looks ahead. Janes did a good job running basket to basket, but that pass just a little bit too aggressive to try and find something in transition.
Yeah, that's when Carmody, a young player, as a freshman, has to know when to pull that back a little bit and move the ball, allow Butler to set something up.
19 turnovers for Butler the other day against Xavier. They turn it over 17 times a game as Norman's called for a cheap one 35 feet away from the basket. On the other side, you have Creighton, 7th in the NCAA in fewest turnovers per game. You're talking about a 6 turnover differential between between these two teams on the season. That's something that Butler has to take care of tonight if they want to pull off the upset.
Creighton doing a good job of moving people. And again, finding another open 3. Creighton is off to a hot start, shooting 3 for 4 from the 3.
That was Lauren Jensen, again, the 2 17-point scorers. 6th and 7th on the all-time scoring list at Creighton, both on the floor for the Blue Jays. Norman tries to answer on the other side and does. Key basket for Carson Norman, who had her best game of the season when you and I were last together in this building against Providence. She had a career-high 11 points and 6 assists in that game. She needs to be a little bit of the engine for Butler on both ends of the floor.
Well, with Butler getting the ball inside to Sydney Janes, Creighton is sending a double team. That's what allowed Carson Norman some space at the 3.
Molly missing her second attempt inside the arc. Now Janes, good quick recognition. And that's back-to-back triples as Zeenstra connects for Butler. And that is a welcome sign to Austin Parkinson, who keeps talking about how well this team is shooting it in practice. It just hasn't materialized yet in game action, a 32% three-point shooting team this season. Now the Dogs will slow it down.
Smart move by Butler. Move the ball east and west. Try to get some shifting in the defense of Creighton. And Lily Zeenstra, another freshman for Butler, being aggressive at the basket. And you like to see that in Butler's young players. They're strong, they're confident, and they play aggressive at the rim.
Townsend and Horan off of the Creighton bench first. Butler still with their original 5 starters playing the first 5 minutes of this first quarter. Good crossover. Zeenstra had an open jumper, didn't take it. And now gives to Carmody. McGuff mishandled it and dribbled it right out of bounds. What will be Butler's second turnover of this opening quarter. But the Dogs, a couple of hot shots from the outside here in the early going, cutting an early Creighton lead to 1 here on the Big East Digital Network. 5 of 7 from three-point range in the early going, and that has kept Butler in it after an early absolutely hounding Mogensen. And still hounding her out. They're asking for a 5-second call, won't get it, as Creighton struggles to initiate the offense. Jensen thought about it for a second, but drove to a comfortable spot. Did everything but go down. Here comes the freshman Carmody.
This is the tempo that Butler likes to play. Push it fast.
Jane's good recognition to slow it down and face. Looks back to a great pass, and Zeenstra just couldn't finish the layup. That was a fantastic look with the defender's head turned around.
With Butler's style of play, they're going to get another crack at that look. They run this spread type of an offense. They really utilize Sydney James from that high post distributor.
Break, size advantage against Norman. Spun through her. Norman did a good job staying vertical. And now we'll trigger the Butler break. Looking for the Bulldogs' first lead of the evening. Not a lot of touches so far for Kylan McGuff, kind of similar to the loss on this past weekend against Xavier, where she was rendered ineffective. In fact, did not have a field goal in the loss at Xavier.
It's tough with conference play because the scouting reports are so detailed and very precise. Teams will lock in on a player, especially one such as McGuff, who's, again, a double-double producer on a consistent basis.
There's a mismatch somewhere. Janes is on Mogensen, who drives right through her. Drew the defense quickly enough. Quick trigger three, just missing from Townsend. These are those lulls we've seen Butler in a couple times this year. They just don't really know who wants the ball offensively. Norman had a big three earlier. Probably could have triggered that one, instead didn't. And now is buried in the corner. And that's a travel. Zeenstra initiated too quickly. Third turnover by Butler. And for the first time, Austin Parkinson will go to his bench. It'll be a trio of Bulldogs. Janes will depart with Kristen Carter coming into the post. Meanwhile, Riley Makaleski, who was a starter at the beginning of the year, the sophomore, has seen her playing time diminish over the last couple of weeks. She's in along with Ari Wiggins to run the point for Butler.
When Butler begins to sub, in many ways, that adds to their strength power. Butler leads the Big East in bench production. These three substitutions all are arguably starter quality minutes with starting experience for the Bulldogs.
Mogensen out right now for Creighton after the last time out. They put Molly back in, and then right through the defense. Beautiful drive. Lauren Jensen just does a little bit of everything. The 5'10 graduate from Lakeville, Minnesota, two-time Big East first-team all-performer, and she has shown a little bit of everything offensively here in the early going. McGuff driving. Sort of forced the issue, but that's what she needed to do. Butler needed a bucket. They get it after going 3.5 minutes without scoring.
Well, when you look at Lauren Jensen and Kylan McGuff, you're going to see a diversity of scoring within both of these types of players.
Molly begging for it against the undersized Wiggins, backing through her, and that's just good physical basketball. I thought they could have blown a whistle on Wiggins a couple of times defensively, and instead Molly just kept playing, kept fighting, and then earned it the hard way through contact.
Meanwhile, Butler trying to find ways to get the ball back inside. This time they find Carter.
She's got in close range, have to finish their left hand. And now Creighton looking to widen the lead. Jensen kicked it back out, top of the key three, misses by Haran, and the ball knocked out of bounds, and it will stay down on this end. A lot of white jerseys around that basket to not come up with the rebound.
You've got Butler dominating again on particularly the offensive rebounds, and then they just have a relentless pursuit of defensive rebounds. You'll often see Kylan McGuff and Ari Wiggins flying out of their zone to pursue rebounds.
When Molly was right underneath the basket, Butler lucky that Lily Carmody was there to smack that ball out of bounds. That was too easy on the inbounds to get Jensen a wide open look. Creighton has gone a bit cold from the three-point line. They've missed their last 3 from distance.
Well, Butler trying to switch everything defensively, and what you're going to see is Creighton then isolate players. Find the weak link. This time, Creighton got an ISO with Molly on Carter.
First foul whistled against Kristen Carter. Gets called for the hand check there. And now bodies flying around the paint. Littrell, good feed to Molly underneath. Probably could have been a foul whistled there on McGuff. Instead, she's ushered out of bounds, and they're going to get a foul call on Creighton on the backside. Well, we've had a few fouls whistled from this crew, but they have really let both teams play, especially at the basket here in the first quarter.
Physicality can really play in the favor of Butler in this game. We see Morgan Molly, she's physical inside. And for Butler, Kyla McGuff plays with a strong grit. You partner that with Kristen Carter, Sydney James, and then, of course, Lily Carmody, the freshman who plays just tough, hard nose.
Boy, Carmody got to the basket, got her own miss, did a good job to flip that over to where she thought an open player would be. That's kind of the bundle of energy we've seen from the freshman from Australia who played a lot of semi-pro and professional ball down under. She's accustomed to a more physical, sort of less fouling type of experience, and she's had to adjust a lot coming to the NCAA in this her freshman season. Really struggled with foul trouble early on, but you can just see she is not afraid at all of contact. Shot clock is off as Carmody battles Jensen here away from the basket.
Creighton being a well-oiled machine. Look for them to be patient, take their time, and there it is. Off of the high ball screen, Lauren Jensen straight to the rim.
1-on-3 by Jensen to end the half. Nothing creative about that offensive set. That was just hold on to the ball and then make something happen. Threes early for the Blue Jays, and then a little bit of Jensen magic late, and the 7-0 Creighton leading by 5 after a quarter here in Indianapolis on the Big East Digital Network. Defeated team still remaining in conference play. Relying on that three-point shot in the first quarter. You see 3 of 7 in the quarter. that 37% shooting number on the year from beyond the arc, first in the Big East and 12th in the NCAA. And no surprise that it was a weapon here again as they lead by 5 on the road.
Creighton's three-point shooting is their signature game strategy. And for Butler, the signature is moving the basketball, a lot of cuts, particularly this backdoor cut that we've seen Lily Zeenstra been able to get the ball on twice, but not yet score.
Foul on 33 for the Blue Jays. Brooke Luttrell, reverse, team's first.
Norman back in to run the offense for Butler. McGuff left open and makes Creighton pay. And immediately you could sort of see Jim Flannery on the Creighton bench lean. He knew that was a missed assignment, and it pays against Creighton defensively. By the way, 5-0, the turnover battle in the first quarter. Butler turned it over 5 times. Creighton didn't give it up. That led to a 7-0 disparity in terms of points off turnovers. That was, as we expected, a massive key to tonight's contest. A team that turns it over a lot, Butler, versus a team that turns it over fewer than almost anybody in the country in Creighton. Molly in a mismatch against Norman, but they didn't get it to her fast enough. And that's the first turnover of the night for Creighton as Butler defensively locks things down and now have a chance to tie or take the lead.
Butler again switching every ball screen, which is going to provoke mismatches, and Carson Norman will be checking Morgan Molly. Creighton trying too hard to capitalize on the mouse in the house.
Boy, Jane's dangerous pass. Makalewski had Jensen completely in front of her and was fortunate it got knocked out of bounds to keep the possession here. Norman looking backdoor, was slow to develop. Everything a little slow right now for Butler, not making quick decisions with the basketball. Janes patiently working in the post. Good up and under, and she's fouled as well. And he'll head to the free throw line to give Butler the lead.
That's the consistency you're going to see from Sydney James. She's patient. She's poised with the basketball. She'll get the ball. She'll check. Look for a double team. Look for a digger. Nothing there. She'll midline dribble and finish with a nice touch.
Butler trying to lead for the first time tonight. That was knocked out of bounds by McGuff on the miss. A rare recent free throw miss for the Bulldogs, have been shooting it great from the charity stripe here in the month of January. Jensen's leading all scorers for Creighton with 7, and now some fighting down low, and they're going to get Zeenstra battling with Morgan Molly. Molly and Jensen combining for 12 of Creighton's 15 points. No surprise, their top 2 scorers shouldering the load.
It was a similar look in the first matchup with those two combining for 23 out of Creighton's first 25 baskets.
Lockett trying to drive through Janes. Break back to Lockett. Shot clock at 5. She goes right through the defense and just had that speed advantage that Butler could never get the switch off at the perimeter to help themselves out.
Well, when you face a tough defensive assignment such as contesting and eliminating, neutralizing almost a three-point shooting team, there's going to be some holes and some drives to the rim.
Again, Jane's trying to work her way through the post, and they will get Allison Heathcock with the foul. That'll bring Townsend and Mogensen back in for Creighton as they go a little bit smaller in this rotation. Butler are one of their larger lineups when you put Makalewski out there with Janes and company. There's Makalewski, the sophomore, and she is ice cold here in the month of January, but McGuff runs down an offensive rebound. Norman thought about it. McGuff can't create enough space. Makalewski will take it from inside the arc and just has not had the shot. She's now 1 of her last 13 from 3 over the last 6.5 games.
Overall, Butler's still doing a good job of shooting from the perimeter, shooting 60% on the game.
Defense really doing a good job denying the main scorers, but Janes just didn't get all the way out to Jensen, and that's just a hand down, man down kind of situation. We've seen that a couple of times for Butler in this game. You just have to challenge this top 3-point shooting team, and it was just too easy for Jensen. She's the first in double figures, 10 now on the night.
Lauren Jensen, quick trigger. And likewise with Carson Norman trying to fire right back for Butler.
She had an answer in the first quarter, not that time. Creighton's lead back up to where it was to begin the quarter. Jensen again. Good find to Mogensen. Ball just moving around, everybody in the right spot. And the Blue Jays have to be disappointed they didn't score there. Butler had no idea where anybody was on that defensive possession.
The ball moves so fast when Creighton gets teams in rotation.
McGuff, good job right through the defense to scoop it in.
That's nice patience. Coach Park saw the opportunity, called the ISO, and then Butler finding some energy now, coming up with the defensive steal and another chance for back-to-back possession.
Yeah, Norman hand in the cookie jar there, just kind of lurking and made Creighton pay for not paying attention. This could be, even though there was a quick change of possession, you could have this be a 4 or 5 point trip for Butler. Shot clock at 6, Zeenstra through the defense. That ball knocked away by Molly, may have been some contact, no whistle. High-flying second quarter, Molly in transition, a rare miss from 3. And Austin Parkinson said, slow it down, let's run a set.
Typically, you'll see this type of pace where Butler will keep their foot on the gas, and they've got 3 substitutions in, ready to come in to do just that.
McGuff. When Molly was sagging just enough, she thought about the 3, but now Janes is left one-on-one in the post. Oh, great patience, up and under, and a chance again at the free throw line for a 3-point play.
Well, Sydney Janes now with 3 nice, solid buckets inside at the rim for Butler. Because Butler started nailing some of those threes, Creighton has changed their defense. They're no longer sending the double team, which is giving Sydney Janes time and patience to make the move that she wants.
And Jane's a really good story of perseverance and team first attitude. She started every game her sophomore year for Butler, and then just with the personnel, what Austin Parkinson has done to reshape this roster, has kind of become a bench player in this her senior season, but thrust into the starting lineup in Big East play, and she's made the most of it. Mogensen had Norman all over, just dispatched her and fought through to get all the way to the hoop with nobody to stand in her way.
Again, it's a tough kind of pick your poison, so to speak, for the Bulldogs. With as well as Creighton shoots at the 3-point line, the defense has to stay extended. There are going to be lanes to the basket if Butler continues to try to ISO and stop down the 3.
Carmody drew the defense. Land gave up an open 3. Carter gets the reset on the offensive glass.
Another one of the strengths of Butler is the offensive rebounding.
14-9, Butler with the edge rebounds in this game. You expected them to have that. Carter has nowhere to go. And now Carmody just with a complete jersey full from Kennedy Townsend. That whistle will take us to a timeout here in the second quarter. But this is turning into quite the battle between 2 teams on opposite ends of the standings in the Big East. But the score would not lead you to believe that. Butler hanging tough midway through the second, a 2-point game here in Hinkle. With AB Stocks, I'm Will Haskett in Hinkle Fieldhouse, where Lauren Jensen has 10 to lead all scorers, including that 3 just a few moments ago here in the second quarter. Creighton looking for its 9th consecutive win over Butler in a series that has seen now 26 matchups between these two teams. Love what Jensen brings from a versatility standpoint offensively to this team, and that 1-2 punch between her and Morgan Molly.
That's right. Lauren Jensen is averaging 17.5 points per game for Creighton, and partner that with Molly, who's herself averaging just about 17 and a half, and then you throw in their third wheel to their contingent with Molly Mogeson.
That was the 5th Creighton foul before the timeout already here in the second quarter. So Butler in the bonus. See if they try to exploit that here for one of the better free throw shooting teams in the conference. Carmody not going to allow Jensen to fire uncontested on this possession, but Molly's got the mismatch underneath and goes right over Norman. We've seen that a lot today, a lot of off-ball screens getting Carson Norman in really tough mismatches in the post against Molly and others.
Well, Creighton is just playing chess right now as far as the strategy and setting up their pieces to force Butler into the switch, especially on Carson Norman.
Unfortunate there for Butler. A ball deflected as Norman was trying to get it in the corner for a three-point shot, deflected off her hands. 7th Butler turnover, just 2 from Creighton.
This is where Butler can really practice the 3-player switch. Right now with Carson Norman on the backside of the defense, checking Molly. There was time to do a backside 3rd-player switch and get Zeenstra on.
And Carmody gets the steal, and as she's fleeing away, thought that she got pushed to the floor, instead slides across the floor. She is writhing in pain as she comes up, poked in the eye and the face. And Pualani Spurlock, one of our officials tonight, calls her for traveling instead. And that one getting the ire of this home crowd, as they thought the hustle play from Carmody was going to lead to at least maybe a possession, if not free throws on the other end. Carmody stays in. She's still kind of gritting through the tears of taking that spill. Molly this time met against Land in the post. That's a better defensive matchup for Butler, but you know what? Good offense beats good defense every time, and that's what Morgan Molly gives you.
Well, Morgan Molly, just right now, the inside action go-to for the Creighton offense with 9 points, 4 for 8 from the 2.
Zeenstra thought about the 3, instead probes. Land thought about it too much and went too fast. 9th turnover now for Butler, as we'll get a couple of starters back in. Good break for Kylan McGuff, long breather for Sydney James, with Wiggins in to replace Norman.
You can see the pace being a factor. Kylan McGuff, a player for Butler who rarely gets subbed out of the game, leading Butler in minutes per game.
And a quick timeout by Austin Parkinson, who is still hot about some of the officiating calls, which has been a huge sort of swing in this second quarter. And obviously with Wiggins there backdoor beat by Molly, they're exploiting the mismatch, and all of a sudden Creighton's opened up its largest lead here in the second quarter.
The mismatch. Creighton is being particular to try to find ways to pinpoint this action. And Carmody trying to deny the post feed inside. A great hustle on the play. She and Jensen kind of got tangled up a little bit. And
seeing that replay, I think it was the right call. I think she went for the steal and just kind of got olayed in terms of where it was. Is Creighton's in the midst of a 6-0 run, and Butler's turned it over 3 times in the last 4 possessions. Almost a 4th. James has been a steadying force down low, and she's got another foul as she works her way back to the line, her 3rd foul and 1.
Sydney James keeping her game very simple on that left block because she has the versatility in her moves. We saw her do the same thing, led Butler in scoring with 9 points at Xavier, and all off of those ISO plays inside.
She's missed another free throw, however. She's 1 for 3 from the line tonight. By the way, that was the second foul on Morgan Molly, who stays on the floor for the final 2:18 here of the half. Jensen looking for Molly. Would have been a good spot there for Wiggins to maybe take a dive. Instead tries to reach around and gets called for the foul. You've got Molly with 2 on her. You've got a huge mismatch in the post. You might as well see if she puts a little body into you and go down and try and draw that third foul.
That's right. Ari Wiggins is trying to body up and to perhaps get the officials to see a little dip in the shoulder of Morgan Molly.
Molly and Jensen were competing for the same space there on the wing. Now Jensen has room to operate. Butler switching back and forth, but has versatile defenders against Jensen and company. She's got to heave something at the last minute, and that goes out for a shot clock violation. Jensen claiming that Carmody got her on the arm, but kind of hard to beg for a call when you're heaving it up from 30 feet with the shot clock expiring.
So this is the second time now that we've seen the shot clock run down on Creighton as they're trying to be deliberate and intentional to get the ball into the hands of Morgan Molly or find a mismatch on the switching Butler defense.
Jim Flannery takes Molly out with the dead ball before the defensive possession. You knew Butler was going to go right to the post if they could, and there they are. Janes met by Haran. Wiggins sets the feet. It's a good find and a good shot. Butler just couldn't convert. And now Carmody comes in and will force a jump ball, and it'll stay on this end.
Butler basketball.
Well, you see the Creighton defense there being intentional about how they're going to guard Sydney Janes now. Sending Kiani Lockett down to double team Janes, leaving Ari Wiggins as the designated three-point shooter that Creighton's going to let take the three.
Jim Flannery thought it was a foul, not a held ball, and is still voicing displeasure from the sideline. Janes again in the post.
Defense to shift before trying to go in for another post feed.
Important final minute of this quarter as Creighton looks to extend the lead heading to half. Creighton has led at the half 14 times this year. They're 13-1 in those games. So Butler knows what they're up against here. Quick trigger three, rattles in and out from Lockett. Butler's got a 2-for-1 here if Wiggins wants to push, but instead they will slow down and run offense.
Butler had some success earlier in the first quarter with this set.
Little three-player game there. Zeenstra looking for space, can't find it. Now Janes with 5 to shoot. Tough fall away, and she's gone empty the last couple of trips. And the shot clock off now for Creighton to hold for 1. No Molly on the court, so you know that Jensen's thinking about it. She went right to the rim to end the first quarter, and she's met with a mismatch with Janes. Goes right through her, through the defense. That'll be a block and 1 as Jensen tries to close out a brilliant first half with a three-point play.
Well, Lauren Jensen now with 12 points on the game, 7 points in the first quarter, and you mentioned the end of the first quarter drive. This is part of her game and what she brings to Creighton, allowing the three-point line to really open up by how aggressive she is at the basket.
Carmody not set, the officials said. Final 2 seconds, Wiggins won't even get a heave. And Creighton takes advantage of a 2.5-minute scoring drought from Butler. The Blue Jays connect on 5 of their last 7 shots of the quarter, and what was a really good first half is suddenly an 8-point game at the break. Janes did what she could in that first half, AB, which is too much Creighton offensively moving the ball on the other side.
That's right. Creighton was very strategic with how they manipulated their defensive assignments, their digging, and again, on the offensive end, moving the basketball, finding the fine tune of where they wanted to score offensively.
Creighton led by 12 at the half, their first meeting back on January 1st. Butler found a way to come back late in that game. Can the Bulldogs find an answer and rally at the break? That is still to be seen. More to come here from the half at Hinkle Fieldhouse. It's Butler 23, Creighton 31 here on the Big East Digital Network. be. On the other side, Creighton 7-0. When you've just got two dynamic scorers, especially the way that Lauren Jensen was playing both inside and outside, she took over at spots and has given the Blue Jays their largest lead of the night heading into the second half.
That's right. Lauren Jensen has 13 points in this first half, going 5 for 8 from the field and an impressive 2 for 4 from the three-point line. Partner that with her partner in crime, Morgan Molly, 11 points and 3 rebounds for the game. Our highlight player for Creighton, Molly Bogensen, staying solid, 5 points for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, Keani Lockett has 2 points. Other than those 3 that we highlighted, their 2 leading scorers, and Mogensen coming off a 21-point game. It's been those 3 until the offense that they have needed. For Butler, they're led by the 9 of Sydney James in that first half. Kylan McGuff, kind of a quiet 7-5. She had it in a real spurt there early in the second quarter. But Butler trying to rally to win just their 3rd game in conference this year. Obviously a big second half for Creighton. Get this win, stay 8-0. They've got that massive game coming up this weekend when they welcome UConn to Omaha, a sellout coming up this weekend. Can't look ahead to that one. 20 more minutes here to try and close this game out, stay unbeaten, and have what will likely be the matchup of 2 unbeatens coming up this weekend.
Across Big East play, you look at how the conference standings are matching up. Seton Hall being impressive. Providence getting off to a little bit of a tough start after being picked 3rd in the preseason, but Creighton and UConn staying strong.
But just a great take by Carmody. Quick look ahead from McGuff, and Carmody was already moving when that pass got to her, so Butler gets the first basket, and after really struggling to score the last 3 minutes of that third quarter, a good sign for the home faithful.
Lily Carmody for Butler, only her first field goal of the game, but she's been strong and solid, getting 4 rebounds.
McGuff slow to operate out to Mogensen and then tie up on the rebound. Molly getting there with Lily Zeenstra. They'll get the freshman from Butler for the foul. It's her second.
We've talked about the physicality of this game, and both teams have players, upperclassmen, who have that experience and that strength. Look for the young players of Butler, especially Lily Zeenstra, to continue to develop under Coach Parkinson and his staff.
Jensen has no problem getting around James. Kind of surprised she didn't take it all the way to the basket. Instead, waited for the 3. That one knocked around and will head the other way. They'll get over the back on Mallory Brake, as McGuff did a pretty good job of selling the contact there by falling down to get the over-the-back violation.
Yes, McGuff had the Butler again looking to find Sydney James inside, keeping the ball spread on the perimeter.
Yeah, she and Molly really going at it in the post. 6 to shoot. McGuff trying to find James. She's going to have to work quickly here. Tries to get it out of the double team. McGuff's going to have to heave, and it's a shot clock violation.
Shot clock violation.
Another turnover for Butler. Now the 12th turnover of the game for the Bulldogs. And as Butler's throwing the ball inside, trying to get some inside-out action, they need to move and relocate.
You mentioned those 12 turnovers. It's 11-2 right now, points off of turnovers. It's a 9-point advantage for Creighton in a 6-point game. And Butler, all sorts of discombobulated on who to go with. That was a double switch, and somehow Brake still went to the basket. Both defenders went with her, and she still scored.
Well, heads-up play by Lauren Jensen with the ball in her hand. She saw the opportune lane, gave her teammate the nod, and Brake to the rim.
Brake playing lockdown defense on McGuff. Now James, one-on-one. Molly has 2 fouls, but she's not really been able to allow James to work in the post here in this second half. Shot clock at 6. Zeenstra trying to find James. Good closeout. Just a nice battle physically between James and Molly. Be shy if we're going to be in the post in this game tonight. Right through the defense, and that will be an offensive foul.
Well, speaking of not being shy, there is Kyla McGuff on the assignment, rotating over. We've talked already about the physicality of this game, and McGuff never shying away from contact.
Came after the shot was up, and I thought for a second there McGuff may have been inside the restricted area. But Butler will take the call and try and put back-to-back baskets together. Janes against Molly, and Molly did a good job standing straight up as Janes forced the issue there. Jensen on the break. Break has been very active here in this second half and gets it back. Mogensen off the back door, drew 3 defenders. That leaves Lockett wide open, and she just couldn't make it, but it caroms back out for a reset. Molly drives to a soft spot and scores, and a really good settle-down offensive trip there for the Blue Jays.
The Blue Jays are so efficient with their offensive patience. They have 9 more possessions this game than Butler has, and they're shooting a high percentage because of their patience.
Norman, quick entry. Janes, Lockett there to double if she wanted to. Norman, a bad pass out by Janes. 4 to shoot. Carmody wildly flying through. Norman, a deep heave. And the long rebound controlled by Jensen. Creighton looking for its largest lead of the night. Mogensen, too easy, right through Janes and couldn't finish. And a timeout. I believe Austin Parkinson called for timeout to try and set things up offensively, and does get it. It's granted, and that will take us to a timeout. Butler trailed by 8 at the break. They have not been able to make up any ground thus far here in the third quarter. Creighton getting good performances from their leaders. Molly and Jensen leading the way here in the third. Creighton matching its largest lead of the night. It is 8 here in the third quarter, and a lot of it has come right at the rim, AB, in this game. Easy driving lanes, quick recognition on the passing, and even though Butler has the size advantage in this game, points in the paint favoring Creighton in this one, 20-16.
Creighton is scoring in the paint by the way they are moving the basketball, manipulating matchups by setting screens, forcing the switch, and then driving the ball inside or getting the inside post feeds. Meanwhile, Butler offense relying a lot on getting the inside game in action out of Sydney James.
Zeenstra trying to create her own drive, and that one's knocked out of bounds by Mogensen. Zeenstra saying she was fouled. Won't get that whistle, and Butler has 10 to shoot.
Well, that's a few times this game we've seen the freshman looking for a foul. Lily Zeenstra on the drive.
Again, there's a Butler called timeout as McGuff will probably have to go to work one-on-one here, working against Townsend, lost the dribble. Carmody's got to heave something up. She lost the handle, and it's 1 to shoot. Butler came out of that timeout with no Carson Norman or Ari Wiggins on the floor, so no real traditional point guard for Butler. This has to be a catch and shoot. It is McGuff. Online, just a little strong, and now the run out. Townsend ahead of everybody up the court and beats the entire Butler defense down for a double-digit Blue Jay lead.
Well, you mentioned no traditional point guard on the court, and that's what you're going to see a lack of is defensive rebounding, and defensive transition defense, because that is the point guard's job to get back on D. Creighton seeing that and scoring quickly in transition.
Mikuleski driving. Good stop. Just couldn't convert on the shot. And now a real dangerous moment here for Butler. Molly, not the person to leave open. She's missed more than her average so far in this game. In fact, she's now just 1 of 3 from three-point range for someone that came in. She's only missed a couple in the last 2 weeks, including an 8 of 9 performance from downtown against Marquette 2 weeks ago. Doesn't connect there, but her team leads by 10. As we step aside here at Hinkle, do or die sort of moment you feel like for Butler here midway through the third. Creighton with its largest lead of the game thanks to this breakaway layup moments ago by Kennedy Townsend. Breakdown defensively for Butler. That was coming off of a miss after sort of a busted possession. And AB, when you look at this game right now, this is a pivotal few moments for Butler to avoid letting this lead get a little bit bigger, and that is exactly what they needed, a turnover from Creighton as Jensen dribbles it off her.
Bounce for Butler indeed. As you mentioned, Will, Butler has to find ways to get some momentum going in his favor. Basketball not only is a game of strategy, but it's a game of emotions. The players are putting a lot out there, and of course we see the coaches being very emotional themselves. Momentum plays a big role.
Handoff from Carter to Land, 4 to shoot. Someone's going to have to heave it. It's going to be Wiggins from way out top. That's a second straight possession. Butler's had to heave a 3 with the shot clock expiring. And transition with a Jensen, and that one goes over the top. So the lead does not swell for the Blue Jays, but not without a lack of trying, as Butler's scoring drought now extends nearly 4 minutes.
The substitution gets Sydney James back in the game.
What a bad pass from Wiggins, just too hot for Carmody, who gets her own hand on it at the other end after the 13th Bulldog turnover. Molly was ready to shoot, just couldn't grab it. Mogensen, boy, she finds good driving lanes, doesn't she? Lost that one. Townsend comes up with it. But both teams sort of scrambling to find something regarding offense or defense as Molly misses again from deep. Another offensive reset as Creighton has done a good job getting second chance opportunities, and Jensen makes Butler pay. The lead now grows to 13.
Well, Creighton got off to a hot start at the three-point line, cooled off a little bit, but Lauren Jensen now with her third three for Creighton.
Butler just can't get looks. No driving lane. Zeenstra thinks about it and connects, just a little bit of space. That's a big three, her second of the night.
Lily Zeenstra staying aggressive on her drive to the basket, but not quite getting the calls that she wants. It's good to see her step outside the three-point line and nail now 2 for 2 from the three.
Carmody closes on Jensen, but Molly left open. She had missed 3 straight from distance. You just know she's not going to keep missing if she has looks. Her second triple, she's tied Jensen with a game-high 16.
That's right. Morgan Molly is 4th in the country in three-point shooting percentage, so you know if you play the percentages, her shots are going to fall.
Carmody taking it to the hole. Good scoop underneath Townsend as both teams trade buckets.
We talk so much about the experience of the Creighton roster, and the freshman for Butler really stepping up big.
Oh, what a set piece there. Molly just beating, lands at the spot. Everybody else drawing the defense out. And Butler has completely lost itself defensively. And there's another giveaway. That one poked. Jensen up ahead, has numbers, looking for Haran, and that ball was kicked. And that was a good kick from Butler to stop what was probably a likely layup, as it'll be a wholesale, practically fresh lineup for Butler here at the dead ball. 4 subs coming in. Only Lily Carmody stays on the floor for Butler.
Well, traditionally, the high pace plays in Butler's favor. And again, Butler has the depth. They have the strength of bench. But right now, Creighton is just putting on a clinic.
And again, how many times in this game has in the post for the Butler point guard?
Well, Butler trying to take away the three-point game from Creighton by switching the screens. At this point in the game, Creighton is shooting under their average from the three-point line. It may behoove Butler to change up their defensive strategy and force Creighton to shoot some shots behind the screens and off the dribble.
15th turnover for Butler. Creighton tried to turn this into a laugher late in the third. Haran can't make the three. Norman looks up to check the clock, doesn't need to force it if they don't want to. And then Carmody picks it up with no help relief.
Well, the clock winding down, Butler has time to use the court and get the shot that they want on their terms.
Norman misses the triple. And that'll be a foul on Butler, fighting for the loose ball rebound. Neither team in the bonus here late in this third quarter.
Well, Lily Stoddard for Butler diving in, trying to get some quick hands on that ball. She's 6'4" and has the length.
Carmody slowing things down on Jensen. Haran looks at the clock. Quick flip. Mogensen has to do something with it. Didn't get it off in time. And one tiny, tiny thing to grasp to if you're Butler going into this. But after trailing by 8 at the half, the lead has swelled to 15. Big threes, both Molly and Jensen doing what they do best. The top shooting team in the Big East putting on a three-point clinic here in the third quarter. And it's the Blue Jays 10 minutes away from that big matchup with UConn, leading by 15 on the road. Be sure you join Megan Caffery as she takes you inside Big East women's basketball each week on the In the Bonus podcast. You can find In the Bonus wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. A lot of talk about the play this season of Morgan Molly on that podcast as well. Hoisting up another triple. She's made 2 tonight. She needs 5 more, AB, to become the all-time leader in three-pointers made in Creighton women's basketball history. 2 of 5 from 3. She's got 20 points on 9 of 16 shooting, above her season average of 17.6 per game, and continues a torrid shooting stretch where she is shooting nearly 70% from three-point range over the last 2.5 weeks.
Well, when you look at Morgan Molly's complete resume, that's why she has twice been named to the Big East first team.
A beautiful scoop under for Mogensen as this one gets away from Butler to begin this fourth quarter. And to kind of continue the conversation about Molly, who is also 38 straight games, now 39 straight games with a 3. She and Jensen are probably going to end up finishing somewhere in the top 3 or 4 in Creighton in all-time scoring. In fact, Molly has an outside chance with a deep tournament run later this year of maybe becoming the all-time leader in Creighton women's basketball history. Tough scoop from Norman. But Molly has a game and a shot. She's not done playing basketball after her Creighton career is over with.
That's right. The way that she plays basketball, the way that she has a feel for the game, a soft touch on multiple dimensions on the court, you definitely can see pro material in Morgan Molly.
Norman, wild drive. Immediately has her coach sending Ari Wiggins to the scorer's table for a substitution, as this has really gotten out of hand quickly for Butler here in the second half. Makalewski poking that one away, and it'll stay here with Creighton.
The score reflected on the board does not quite show the grit and the toughness that both teams are playing with. They're continuing to battle every possession. We saw Makalewski there getting that deflection. Sydney James checking break, trying to get some ball pressure to find a spark for Butler.
This game was tied at 20 in the second quarter, and it has been all Blue Jays pretty much ever since. Molly showing that step back part of her arsenal, but just a little bit short. James had position, but Makalewski couldn't find her.
This is the inside-out action that Butler's looking for. Carmody has some space. She opts to take the drive, and Lily Carmody to the basket now with 7 points.
Carmody is going to be a huge part of the future of this program for Butler. You can see it in the way that she plays defensively, her ability to get to the basket. But easy to see here in the second half is, look at that one almost spin in from Mogensen. She'll head to the line for 2. It's 2 different programs at 2 very different junctures in their maturation process. You look at Creighton, 4 graduate students, 3 seniors, 2 juniors. The average experience in college basketball on the entire roster is 3.9 years. Think about how old that is for Creighton. On the other side for Butler, you've got a 4-woman freshman class coupled with a 4-woman sophomore class. At one point tonight, Austin Parkinson had all underclassmen on the basketball court at one point in time. You know, what Jim Flannery has built over a long period of time at Creighton, he keeps players, he builds a roster that, like this year, can compete for the very top spot in the Big East. It's what Austin Parkinson's trying to do at Butler with a core unit that he hopes will still be together here in 2-3 years.
That's right, longevity and eyes on the long-term prize. You mentioned Coach Flannery in his 23rd season at Creighton. Conversely, Coach Parkinson in his 3rd season. 9 of Creighton's players on their 11-player roster with over 3 years of a college experience.
But Molly almost wasted a really good defensive effort from Carmody, but just missed what would be her 3rd 3 of the night. And now Zeenstra dribbles it off her foot out of bounds. And the turnover starting to mount for Butler. I mentioned coming in, they averaged 17 a game. They've exceeded that tonight. That was the 18th giveaway. Plus 11 now, the turnover advantage for Creighton. We knew that was going to be a big key to this game. It has come true here for the home team in white.
That's right, for Butler. The last turnover committed by another freshman in Zeenstra. But when you look across of what Coach Parkinson and his staff are building, of the 18 turnovers, half of those are coming from the freshmen. That's something he can live with because they're getting valuable court experience, valuable game experience that will play off.
McGuff can't hit the three in transition. James did a good job to poke it back to McGuff. And like a bull in a China shot gets all the way to the hole and one.
That's experience right there. Kyla McGuff, she's grown up around the game. She's been around the block, so to speak, having transferred into Butler. Now as an upperclassman, she understands the moment and how to drive the ball to the basket and find ways to keep the ball moving in the direction for Butler.
Has 10 points, and she's one rebound away from what will be her 8th double-double of the season. And has had to bear so much more of the load here in the month of January after the injury and season ender for Caroline Strandy.
That's right. Butler making some major adjustments. First in the offseason, playing without Jordan Melmans, and now during the season having 2 stints where they've had to recover from an injury to their leading scorer and all Big East selection, Caroline Strandy.
Jensen dribbles back to the three-point line to bury it over Janes as it's turned into a Jensen-Molly competition of who wants to score more in this game tonight. 19 now for Lauren Jensen. Carmody left open. Janes fighting all the way to the end. Gets the reset. She leads all Butler scorers. That's 13 now for the senior.
13 points, another offensive rebound. That's 7 offensive rebounds for Butler.
Jensen wild drive, and there's rebound number 10 for McGuff. 10 and 10 tonight for her. Wiggins, Jane's gonna try her luck at a three and bounces it in.
2 games in a row now, Sydney James has drilled a three-pointer for Butler. On the season, she is shooting 45% from the three-point line.
Her 11th made three prompts a quick timeout from the Creighton bench. Jim Flannery doesn't want to see this game get a little bit too wide open. The make there for Janes takes us to a break in what is now a lead whittled down to just 12. Butler showing some grit here in the fourth quarter with a couple of solid drives to the hoop. And Austin Parkinson wondering if it's too little too late. With Creighton up by 12 here midway through this fourth quarter. Janes the triple to prompt the timeout, and Butler back within a dozen here late in this game. Butler winning the fourth quarter to this point, as Creighton's three-point shooting has been good, if not great, in this game. Certainly good enough, with a combination of Molly and Jensen combining for 39 of Creighton's 54 points. With A.B. Stocks, I'm Will Haskett. Butler looking if they can get this rally back inside single digits here in the final 5 minutes of this fourth quarter.
Butler's defense is doing its best to be disruptive to the Creighton offense, but Creighton keeps finding ways to pick them apart. This time Butler able to get that stop on the ISO with Molly.
Wiggins, boy, broke down the defender. Could have turned and flipped it in if she wanted to. Instead, Carmody drives. She's got 9. The lead is back to 10. Creighton has missed 6 of its last 7 shots from the field to give Butler a little glimmer of hope here late in this fourth quarter.
As well as Creighton is playing offensively, they're a little bit behind their average. Butler doing a good job defensively, not so much offensively, but keeping Creighton below its scoring average and being disruptive.
Mogensen misses everything there. Jane's tapping the ball around. McGuff finally comes up with it. She's trying to get it free to a teammate and does.
Smart heads-up play there by Kyla McGuff to be patient on that hustle play.
Carmody didn't have help. Wise to pull it out. McGuff goes at Molly. Nowhere to go. Can they find an open shooter? A 3 right here would make Creighton think about it a little bit more. Instead, Makalewski drives into a double team and has it ripped out of her hands.
You mentioned a few possessions ago, when Butler gets the ball at the rim, they have the ability to turn and shoot, elevate over the defense, elevate over the extension, because Butler has the length advantage inside.
Butler in the midst of a 7-0 run. Again, Creighton took control of this game late right now that I'm not sure Jim Flannery was expecting to still be out there 4 or 5 minutes ago, but they're having a hard time closing out this game. Janes backing down her defender. Carmody has to be ready to shoot that ball. Someone needs to shoot it. It's going to be Wiggins instead, and there's the triple. 7-point game.
Well, that's exactly what Butler needed. Ari Wiggins shoots 53% from the three-point line. When she's patient and set, that's a bucket.
Jensen and Molly work a little two-man game. Mogensen had the mismatch. Carmody goes at Molly. Through the contact, couldn't get it to bounce in. That's the right call, had the arm down, and that will send an almost automatic free throw shooter to the line. Molly hits it at 87% and will try to restore order at the charity stripe.
Well, Butler continuing to trust its defense and be physical inside against Morgan Molly.
And that ends a 10-0 Butler run. There you see how Creighton has gone cold from the field. McGuff goes at Jensen. That'll be an offensive foul. Too easy. Drove right into the body and then accentuated it with a little bit of a chicken wing. And any thoughts of a late rally perhaps evaporating here after Molly made the free throws and now the offensive foul, which is the 18th Butler turnover.
It is their three-point shooting. They have not shot well from the three over the course of this season, but tonight Butler shooting almost 40%, but will not against that. And wide open layup for Creighton on the drive from Morgan Molly.
Too many driving lanes, and Creighton has done a superb job tonight getting Molly into mismatches off of screens. McGuff hits the 3. Butler refuses to go away quietly.
Kyla McGuff, 34% three-point shooter, trying to will her team to stay in the mix.
Butler needs a stop. Stop at a quick score. Molly wasn't set. Townsend wants to give it up, does. Mogensen feeding Molly. There's that mismatch again, but she didn't work against Wiggins. Instead, kicked it over unselfishly to Jensen, who was ready for the moment, and that's the dagger.
Jensen was hands and feet and eyes were completely ready for that shot. 5th made three-pointer of the game for Lauren Jensen.
And now another giveaway. Wiggins, though, comes up with it. Wildly flips it up. Loose ball run down. And Lockett is fouled by McGuff.
Fouls on Butler.
Both players claiming they were victimized.
Second, team's fourth.
Just the fourth Butler foul. Next one will put Creighton at the line in the bonus in the game's final 66 seconds.
Substitution 33.
In a game with relatively few fouls called and very few free throws, Butler did not shoot a free throw this entire game, and Creighton only to the line 5 times, going 5 for 5.
Wiggins stepped in front of that pass and knocked it out. Got right underneath Mogensen.
Butler keeping this extended pressure on, perhaps wishing they would have extended and added some pressure. This run and jump look a little bit earlier in the game.
A wild pass by Jensen. Could have just held on to it. Butler not playing the foul game right now. Down 11 here in the final minute. And resigned to the fate of this one is Creighton is about to go 8-0 in conference for the first time in their history in the Big East, and will set up that massive showdown at home against UConn coming up this weekend. What do the Blue Jays have for the Huskies?
Well, right now, Creighton has its three-point shooting and its inside game. Morgan Molly, the way she's able to pick apart defenses with her multi-dimensional scoring, and Lauren Jensen, her quick drives to the basket and her quick release.
Now, Butler had a little bit of a fourth quarter rally, but just too many turnovers and too much incredible offense. Jensen and Molly combining for 46 here on a Wednesday night. And that's one of the top teams in the Big East Conference, proving it on the road. They got a real scare from this Butler team to begin 2025. Not scared in the second half. Impressive from the two-headed monster for the Blue Jays, the way that both Molly and Jensen took over the game at various times.
That's right. And a team loaded with upperclassmen, the Creighton Blue Jays found ways to dominate and keep the pace and the pulse in their favor. Butler tried to fight back. Kyla McGuff, the double-double leader in the Big East Conference, answered with 15 points and 13 rebounds, but it just was not enough. Sydney James, 16 points for Butler, the two seniors trying to will this young team to compete with the veteran squad of the Creighton Blue Jays.
Butler does shoot at 41% from three in this game, but AB 20 turnovers sort of does them in on the offensive end. Too many opportunities given to their opponent. And now that big matchup is set with UConn taking care of business tonight. It'll be a matchup of unbeatens coming up later on this week, and we are all looking forward to that here around the conference to see these two teams duke it out in Omaha coming up this weekend.
That's right. Creighton is solid at home. In the last two seasons, Creighton is 17-2 in games on their home court arena. This will be a tough matchup. All eyes will be on the Big East come Saturday.
Well, it's a good one tonight. Good road win for the Blue Jays. They moved to 8-2 away from home this year, one of the best records in the entire country when it comes to playing on the road. They win it by 11 here in Indianapolis. For A.B. Stocks and our entire crew, I'm Will Haskett saying so long for Indianapolis. Creighton moves on to 8-0 in the Big East this year, their best start in program history.